Good afternoon, class. In today's video, what I'd like to do is to finish up our series of videos on periodic table stories. And this one, I wanted to finish off with kind of an interesting story, again, from the ancient world about where some of our element names come from, also where the atomic symbols come from. And this one, so in the last video when I talked about tungsten, I figured that was a good one that appeals to a certain demographic. I figured that to appeal to the other demographic, that on the more opposite side of those two demographics, that for this video I would focus only on one, and it would be antimony as our last one of the series so far of what I've found as more interesting stories of why periodic table elements were named the way they were. And so for this one we're going to talk about antimony, or antimony as some people have pronounced it. For this one, it comes from the Greek word. It's a compound word of two Greek words, anti and moni. So it means not from metals, or it's not found alone. So like anti and mono. That's where that's where the first bits of that name came from. Also, the Latin form of this Greek word is stebium, and that's why antimony has Sb as its atomic symbol. Now, where does this come from? Of course, because it's coming from the ancient world, which also meant that it was discovered multiple times over the course of many civilizations, the etymology can get confused, and there's no one agreed upon method or one agreed upon etymology of the name antimony. But the general consensus, or the more popular one, is that when antimony was first discovered, it was always found as an alloy of other metals. So it would always be mixed in with things, and they might be able to purify some of the metals away, but it was always difficult to get antimony by itself, to purify it and have just a pure sample of it. So that was one of the reasons why it was called the way why it was named as such. But some of the more interesting uses of it is because, and the reason why we know about it in all of the from ancient times, is because it was used, especially by the ancient Egyptians, as an eye cosmetic. And it's also, so that was interesting. It was used back then for, to get that, like maybe like eyeshadow or something like that. Again, I don't wear makeup, so I'm sorry if I said that wrong. The other more interesting, or at least to me, the more interesting idea behind antimony is because it's a part of what's called fluoroantimonic acid. It is such a strong acid that it can set things on fire that you normally wouldn't expect to get be set on fire. Things like asbestos, things that have already been burned. It will burn it again. One time there was somebody who was carrying fluoroantimonic acid, and it spilled, and it took, basically, you can imagine something about the size of our gymnasium. The whole concrete floor, the entire gymnasium's floor, it burned through all the concrete and the earth, the dirt beneath it, for about 1 meter deep. So fluoroantimonic acid is not something to be trifled with, and antimony is part of it. So it's one of those things where if you can find different uses for it, and sometimes they come from all different areas, from basically makeup to agents that to chemicals or acids that we can use to destroy almost everything on this planet. So that may or may not conclude the series of videos. There may be some other ones that I may find at a later time, but as of right now, this concludes the series of videos on periodic table stories. So good luck on your studies, and I'll see you next time.